So, Simon, I'll begin with you. Why do you think it is that men resist seeking help for their health?
Good question. Probably because we're busy. We're often very busy in our lives, and getting a doctor's appointment or booking in or taking time out now is probably even more hard than it was pre-COVID. So it's really hard to get appointments to see stuff. And you always think, oh, I'm okay. And we tend to just sort of carry on, don't we, and bimble along through life thinking I'm okay. A specific example for me was you can get a Wellman check when you're 50 to check your heart rate, and they check cholesterol levels and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't do mine until I think it was the end of last year, so the end of 52-ish. I just didn't get round to doing it, and it's really important because it flagged that I've got slightly high cholesterol. It's not severe by any accounts, but it's still something that you need to look at and manage. So there's a classic example of that is I didn't get around to doing my Wellman thing. When you're 50, you can take a Wellman, go to the NHS and they give you a Wellman. They just give you they take bloods and stuff, check the prostate count, your prostate and things like that. So I think it's just more to do with time. And we think men are notorious, aren't we? We just think we're okay and we carry on. It's not going to happen to me. We just get on with it.
I'm one of the worst, and I didn't do it for a long time, but I'm a lot better than I was. And it's not as awful as it seems, or we think it is, basically. And I'll go now, and I'm a bit of a needle phobe. I hate needles, but I've had lots of needles. I had a bit of a heart problem, and now I just go and do it, and it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I've still be able to go to the gym even with my bad heart.
Well, there's always opportunity to improve your health, even if you're, really in a poor state. There's something you can do. Do you think it's Greg? Do you think it's to do with a sort of, not just a phobia, but a cultural belief that men should man up, or just be tougher than women, or why do you think there's a resistance to self-care in overall, including your mental health?
Yeah, I think more with mental health, I think there's still more of a stigma around that than perhaps some of the other medical conditions, like John said, maybe heart conditions, or Simon going getting his MOT. I had my over 40s check, I know when I spoke to some of my mates, they hadn't gone and had theirs. And the classic sound like we've just mentioned, oh, well, I know I'm all right because I'm not overweight and I'm not this and I'm not that, and just presumed, where I had mine done and I was told I was overweight and I did have a little bit of cholesterol like Simon, nothing high. But again, it's off the flip side of that. I found the card in my car the other day when I was tidying it out, and I looked at it and read it and I thought, God, I was supposed to do something about that and I haven't. So I think that's on the flip side of it. You go in and you do get the news and you have all the good intentions, but then to make those decisions, to make the changes, that's like anything. That's where you do, because you get busy, you then forget, you procrastinate, and then it's only like, are you when you find the card? Because I've also found another card when I've been tidying up from not having my eyes tested. And that's two things I've got as well. So I should imagine I'm not on my own in that basis. So I think it's, one, you're busy, two, you procrastinate, three, you think you'll be all right. And I think some stats I wrote down before this, when you talk about mental health or age groups and people dying, and I look at, well, I have a look at my age group and people I went to school with are in not my close group of friends, but just on the periphery of groups of friends. There's 4 or 5 lads who I went to school with who committed suicide, who were, good lads, clever lads, decent jobs, all the rest of it, and they're the last people you'd expect to do it. 2 died from cancer, who I used to play football with. I actually had two people I went to school with who died from COVID as well. So when you look at that there, just in a little snapshot, just on the periphery of my group, there's you know, there's 9 people there, you know, that for one reason or another, you know, the mental health ones, if they'd have spoke to somebody, would that have been a different outcome? Quite possibly.
So do you think that that's maybe a part of the issue, is that because men aren't talking to each other as much, they're not inspiring one another to take the action or to share their problems and to be open and get emotional and whatever else is kind of helping them?
I think the difference is, I think as an example, I think me and Simon spoke about this the other week. I think when men go out together, we don't actually talk. I go out on a night out with the lads and I come back and my missus says, "What have you all talked about?" And I'm like, "Nothing. We're just taking the mick." She goes, "How's such your body's wife?" I go, "I've no idea." How's the kids? I've no idea. "Well, what do you talk about all night?" It's like, we literally just take the mickey out of each other and generally banter and don't have that conversation, where I think when females go out, they generally have that more in-depth conversation. And I don't know whether that's just a male thing, a culture thing, or whatever it is, but I think that's perhaps one of the biggest, you know, the biggest areas where we don't talk.
So maybe, you know, something that you could draw off the back of this is asking each other, like, how are you? Like, really though, how are you? How are you getting on? Like, not just, yeah, fine, but actually talk a bit more and get a bit more underneath, you know, how you're feeling.
Yeah.
I think the only problem with that is, Mel, when I've had 8 pints, I forget the day after they told me.
It's hard to do it in a peer group, isn't it? That thing, Greg, because when I went through a rather emotional breakup, and it was really hard to talk to some of my best mates about it because they didn't want to hear it. They were great for picking me up and taking my mind off it and going for a few beers and having a laugh. But then when I was on my own, my headspace was just spinning out. And I was in the pub once and I was on my own and I was talking to someone I didn't know that well. And we just sat at a table chatting. And he said, "How are you?" And I just went, "Bleh." And it was a massive release just to go, "Bleh." And I said, "How are you?" And he went, "Bleh," to me. And it was a really weird scenario. And we look back at it now and laugh about it because I didn't know and we didn't know each other that well, but we just both sort of poured out on each other. And he was going through something completely different, which no one knew about. So it's hard with your peer group sometimes to do that, but it's becoming easier and more recognisable now, isn't it, to be able to have those conversations. Maybe it's finding people that you can speak to actually, you know, and you have to find those people, whoever they may be.
John, what do you think?
I think I'm more of a private person as well. I don't like to be letting people know what's going on in my life, really, even if they're, you know, acquaintances. But you know, I'll talk to the missus about anything. You know, she'll listen to me and tell me to shut up and get on with it.
Do you think that helps you or hinders you from being that way?
I think it probably hinders me a little bit. I've got, like I said earlier, I've got a lot better at it than I used to be. I used to be awful. But now, like I said, if I get the littlest thing wrong with me, I'll go and get it sorted. Which I've got no qualms about going to. It's trying to get to a doctor rather than worrying about it. It's trying to get these days is a nightmare.
I think for us, all 4 of us on the call growing up, you know, you went to school, you got taught how to do maths, English, speak a language. Nobody's ever taught you how to talk emotionally, how to listen to somebody emotionally. And it's perhaps one of those areas that everybody's lacking in skills on how to talk about it and how to deal with it when somebody talks to you. I mean, that's a lot of the problem, is the education that people have had, and that's going to take generations, I think, to flip it. As we know, when we look at the age group of our fundraising population, there's generally an older end that, you know, historically have bottled things up and not shared it. So I think to try and break that cycle is extremely difficult. Plus, like John said, everybody's private, everybody's busy, everybody's whatever, and it's, you know, it is really difficult to get under the bonnet sometimes.
Yeah.
So John, I was just wondering, you know, off the back of your health issues, have you been able to take advantage of Medicash at all?
I do. I've used Medicash. Well, I used the old one. What was the old one called?
Health Shield.
Health Shield. So I always used Health Shield. And they were great.
I have actually maxed my Medicash because I believe Medicash runs from September to August, because I did email the other day.
That's
so it doesn't
correct.
run year to year, it runs September to August. So some of you would know, I had a bad accident last year. So you get like 120 quid off for like physiotherapy. So I went to physio. I had a couple of physios. So I got the 60 quid back for those for each one. Then I did some alternative therapy, which is Bowen technique, which is another thing where they manipulate, and I managed to get some money back for that. I've used a dental program. I think it's 60 or 70 quid back 70. On your dental. What is it? 70?
70 quid.
70 back on your dental program. It's a no-brainer. You know, even having a massage, and we all know how relaxing a massage can be. I don't know what some of our fundraisers are thinking, but a normal massage, it's lovely. You know, you can have a nice
Indian
massage
head
for
massage.
60 quid. Indian head massage. There's loads there that are great. I mean, you've got to book in and do it, but it's really simple to use. You literally go and do it. They give you a receipt, ask for a receipt, and it's got to be someone who's qualified. It can't just be someone off the street corner or something. As long as it's qualified and you get a proper receipt, you literally take a photo of the receipt, load it up to the app, and I think the money was back in my account the next day. It's that easy to use. Really easy. So I've used all mine up that I can use, Mel, and I'm waiting for August so I can go and have another massage and some more physio.
What about you, Greg?
I've used it once for the first time, probably the first bank holiday or the second bank holiday we had in May. I cracked a tooth and went to the dentist. I think that was 70-something quid. It was a Friday I went. I was cleared the money back. It was a bank holiday on the Monday, and the money went back in my account on the Wednesday or the Thursday. Dead easy to do. The other thing I've done, because again, you can claim half the benefit for children under a certain age as well. So I've got both my kids now logged into that as well. So touch wood at the minute, I've not had to use it for them, but you know, if there's anything that does crop up for them, you know, obviously I can claim that back as well. So I think now I've done it, the biggest thing everybody does it is everybody get again that busy. It takes a minute to download the app. It takes a couple of minutes to register it and find out what you're doing. And then when you put the receipt in, scan it, send it off, a couple of minutes. I think it's the fear of the unknown. When you talk about going to the hospital or the doctors and people not wanting to do it, I think the Medicash thing's the same. It's just like, too busy, I can't be bothered, I'll do it another time. But once you've done it and you appreciate how easy it is and it's not a big thing, then you think, I'll do that again.
And have you used the virtual GP? Because that's a really, I mean, if you're waiting to speak, as you were saying, John, waiting to speak to a doctor, and I know that obviously on the NHS that can take some weeks in some cases. With Medicash, you can have access to a GP. They'll call you back within 24 hours of you making that request, which is, I think, really impressive and worth using if you want to see or need to speak to a doctor.
I've had a couple use, perhaps not the GP one, but I've had a couple use the skin one where you can do that. And again, within a matter of weeks, someone was in, you know, everything looked at into the hospital very quickly. And, you know, got a kind of a, you might have to edit this bit now because I can't remember what they call it. Your diagnosis back that you were, not everything was fine and clear, but, you know, from the picture on the app, they looked at it and said, yeah, we need to see you, and came in, but again, overcame that fear. But without the app, that person probably wouldn't have gone and done it and probably would have left it, procrastinated, and it could have turned into something worse.
I think the biggest thing for me is, and I think with fundraising and even in the management side of fundraising, is we work on a hamster wheel. It goes so quickly, right? So Monday to Friday, you work in the fundraiser show, bang, it stops. Then you're back on the hamster wheel again the next week. Before you know it, it goes from January to May, June to December. Before you know it, New Year's gone. And it's trying to find some balance in amongst what you're doing. And I don't just mean your holiday time when you go on holiday. It's during your working week. How do you take some time for yourself? I know it's tough for fundraisers and sometimes even us with our computers and stuff, but how do you take some time during the working week just to stop and just being present and be in the moment? Because otherwise life's going to pass you by. And when I've been working away previously, and I imagine what it's like for fundraisers, being in hotels and stuff, going straight to the bar every night, having a few beers is probably much easier than maybe taking yourself outside for some fresh air or going for a swim in the pool or whatever else you can do. But, you know, one bit of advice, certainly as you get older, is monitor the levels of alcohol, I think. I
go in kind of fits and starts with fitness and things. I'm not in the gym 4 times a week like John, but at stages where I have been healthy and I have been in the gym and I have ate properly and kind of had a food plan. And I think what I noticed, when you're a fundraiser, if you're not prepared, you get up in the morning and you don't have a proper breakfast, and then you end up stood in a Greggs with a coffee, a bacon and a sausage roll, and then you're in Greggs again at dinner for a pasty and a coffee and a cake in the afternoon and a Subway. Before you know it, that's where your weight creeps on, your cholesterol creeps up. the habits form, then you get the tired sluggishness because your diet is out. And it's just having that time, and again, the planning. If people did the food prep, I'm preaching that I'm not, not doing it myself, but it makes a huge difference to your energy levels, your energy output, your productivity, and your well-being. And again, there's perhaps not enough that we talk about or, help people with that.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, two of our best fundraisers in my area, Mike Thomas and Brian Mallet, they're up there with the number of donors they do, and I'm not talking about, but they're both keen cyclists. So, Brian went to the Isle of Wight not so long back. He was doing, silly amount of donors, but he was going for a run every day and all sorts. And they're absolutely fit as a butcher's dogs, a pair of them. And they're absolutely just, they're really, they've got loads of energy. You're right, it's the energy levels, isn't it?
You've got to do that though, haven't you? As I'm in the gym 4 times a week, but I'm in there at 6:30, so I've got to make that time. I just make sure that I'm up and I'm gone, done it. But it's, as Simon said, that we're busy. Everyone's busy, fundraisers especially. But it is important that if you can do that, take that time out either before or after work to do something. You need to do it for that release, definitely.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just about developing a habit and having that discipline and being, that is what I do and that is when I do it, and there is no compromise. I'm doing it for me. Do you find that since you've had that habit, you've just felt generally way better?
Yep. So much better. It's like I was talking to my brother last night because he's trying to do the same, and for want of a better word, it puts lead in your pencil first thing in the morning. After coming back from the gym, you're ready to go, and I love it. I don't like getting up and going, but once I've done it, it's great. You come back and you think, oh, it's great, done that. Just feel better.